Yeah, greetings, comrades. Welcome to our Conscientism Saturday unification session, as usual, where we discuss the unification of Africa. And this week we look forward to, or today we look forward to discuss about democratic processes at the continental scale. So, feel most welcome. We will be having a presentation by Brother Kwame, our chair, and Sister Portia will take 5 minutes to do some update. Then after the presentation, we will go straight to question and answer for anybody who has any question first, and then we go to the general contribution. So that's the format of our conversation for today. So once again, feel most welcome. My name is Pidgin Odimwengu. I am, of course, part of the coordinator of the Conscientism Study Group. So thank you very much. Greetings, Elder Sam. It's been a while. I was going to check on you actually to call you to know how you're doing, Elder. Uh,
Thank you, brother Phoebe. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Happy to hear from you. Greetings, Sir Windhoek from Namibia, and Brother Philip from Ghana, Sister Portia from the other side of Trump, and also Brother Otieno from Kenya, and Brother Kwame. Greetings to all of you, comrades, and to those who will be joining us, those who will be watching our recording, feel most welcome, and keep joining us and keep following our conversation. You can equally join us via our Zoom anytime you like on Saturdays, 6 p.m. Accra, same to Thursdays and Mondays as well. So yeah, let's go straight to our conversation for today. Let's start with Sister Portia. Sister Portia, over to you. Let's start us off.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Okay, greetings, everyone. I'm reading a protest letter instead of my geopolitical analysis. I ask your patience for that. I would like that to be on record. And before that, just kindly know that Brother Kwame, King Brother Pigeon, have sent me the necessary information. There's a meeting on Tuesday to go over the final application before I send it on Wednesday. It's cutting it tight, but we will still try. The due date is the 15th of July. And I just want to thank all the people who have been attending the meetings. I really appreciate that. And I will make sure that once this application is in, that I do a formal thank you. So with that said, this is my protest letter. And let me now turn on my camera for recording purposes. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. I hope that you can see me there, everybody. Okay. Protest letter. 4th July 2026, around 6:07 p.m. Accra, Ghana time. This protest letter is from Portia C. Allen. I am the one speaking now, and in no way, the letter in no way is the views of the Conscientious Study Group. These are my own personal views. Comrades, in terms of reparatory justice, the United States of America government has not apologized for and up to its horrific systems causing the enslavement of African people and the mass killings of indigenous people. So noted, American people and indigenous people lived freely and cooperatively long before 56 white men appearing signed the United States of America Declaration of Independence. For the United States of America government to suggest human rights for all, and at present a let freedom ring, all North American Hollywood-like, such feels condescending, especially since the United States of America government has a pattern of controversial policies, domestic and globally, as well as in outer space. WTF is that Musk? I do not rant only. I talk of skewed perceptions of progressive inclusion, the United States of America government's purported democracy. Said democracy debatably skips the alleged human rights abuses committed by the United States of America government. Journalist Palki Sharma once said, for a country that has appointed itself the class monitor on human rights, how does America's own record look? Even further, critics suggest that when allegations emerge against the United States of America government, the same government and its representatives default to emphasizing the priorities of national security and that of its allies. By and large, global majorities are well aware of the United States of America government's purported democracy. Idilosi, amatango, within context of 6,000 plus languages, over 8 billion people, 190 plus countries, for example. So no, please, and thank you very much. Purported democracy is not a best way to investigate, hold to account, describe, and or change for the better. Indeed, it is my extra contention that the United States of America government's purported democracy is far behind in achieving access to justice, press freedom, rule of law, and full transparency. Similarly to philanthropic calls for shifting power. Okay, there is not a perfect governmental system. I remain cautious of the United States of America government's purported democracy, guised as celebrations with enforced declarations of independence. Its past promises, its current actions are heavily skewed. 250, cut the check. Africa always, origin powers.
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Confirm. Okay, hope
We
you can
can
hear me.
hear you, King brother. We can hear you,
Thank you very
King
much,
brother.
sister. Thank you very much, Sister Portia, for that. I really don't know how it came about or it came from, but I think it's very useful. So let's get straight to our conversation on democracy. I think you've started it off. I wanted to play the Fela Kuti song, Democracy. And if anybody has ability to play that song, Democracy, please do so. But let me take it over to Brother Kwame, who is going to do the presentation. Brother Kwame, please come in.
I thank you, Brother Pigeon. Let me share the screen. Let me share my screen and then so yeah. Can you see okay, Brother Pigeon? Can you confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes, it is visible, Brother Kwame.
Okay.
It's very visible.
Thank you. Can I proceed then?
Yeah, please proceed. If you like maybe to make it full screen, just proceed.
Yes, I'll make it full screen. Thanks.
Thank you.
I've now made it full screen. Is it clear? Yeah. So I'm Brother Christian Agbotsa, the director of the Kwame Nkrumah Trust, sometimes chair of CSG. So my presentation is on the democratic participation. But the topic for today is democratic participation in on a continental scale. But as you will agree with me or disagree with me, when we talk about the continental scale, we don't just see a continent, but we see a united Africa. So, in as much as there are 55 neocolonial states, if we exclude Western Sahara, that is 54, we see one, or we foresee one nation. So my presentation is titled "The Diagnostic Audit of Agenda 2063." So I want to draw your attention to what I call the scholastic formula, which basically means that I looked at the AU in terms of its institution, its frameworks, its charters, its policy documents, example Agenda 2063, its AGA, that's African Governance Architecture, which are meant to theoretically design the continent's future. I call those scholastic because they are like formulas in mathematics. That's what they are. They just tell you what it is you want to do and how you should do it. It's like somebody going to cook and has a formula, a recipe, if you like, for cooking the food. It doesn't mean that they have cooked the food or that they can even cook the food. It just means that they have a recipe for cooking the food. So that's the first thing you notice, that we have a recipe for unification. That's the first thing to notice. And I'm going to go clockwise. So I'm going to United Africa. So I am suggesting that the democratic participation on a continental level implies a united Africa, a new nation. And that happens also to be the outcome of aspirations 2 and 3. So Agenda 2063 has aspirations. And that happens to be the happens to have aspirations 2 and 3. But according to the African Union, that is it's either they haven't decided whether it's going to be a federal Africa or a confederate Africa. So that is what they are saying. But whichever the African people decide, whether confederate or federal, it will be a sovereign entity. We are saying that should be a sovereign entity driven by universal suffrage, which means everybody votes, and democratic integration. The third thing I want to look at is the indigenous and organic nations of Africa. So the AU does recognize that there should be social accountability, and the AU's position is that the African the African Union or the Africa, however, whether it's confederate or whether it's federal, should be driven by the people of Africa. It should be not only driven by Africa, but also owned by Africa. It is the AU's belief that the unification of Africa will or must be championed by the African people. Now, whether or not the African people are in a position to do that, it's up to you to judge. But our position is that if it's going to be done by the African people, then the African people that must do that organizing, that transformation must be the indigenous and organic nations of the continent. These are the people, the true ground level constituents, whose democratic vitality and cross-border reality, you remember, preceded and will outlive the artificial state borders. The fourth underlying idea as part of my presentation is the neocolonial barrier. And the argument here is that the entrenched sovereignty of individual states that actively intercepts and blocks continental democratic mandates from reaching the people. I don't know what you think, but I don't believe that the neocolonial states of today are really going to ratify a united Africa if we leave it to them. Yeah, if we leave it to them, I have my doubts. Some people have more faith in me, in neocolonialism, than others. But whatever you believe, it's okay. But this is my belief. So these are the four preliminary thoughts I want to share with you. The scholastic formula, a united Africa, indigenous and organic nations, the neocolonial state barrier. Then I go on to my first slide, where I then looked at what the formulas were saying. In the same way as you would say, what is the recipe for this food saying? What are the ingredients of this recipe if I want to cook this food? So I looked at the recipe, and then what I see is that the AU itself, or its documents, recognize that there are current systemic democratic deficits and that there is structural exclusion and lack of accountability at the national level. So it recognizes that, exclusion, there is deficit, there is instability, etc., across the whole continent. So in terms of the baseline, there are governance deficits. So if there is going to be democratic participation at the continental level, we have to recognize these baseline deficits. There are four levers, if you like, or four things, or four lines in the recipe. And I call them X1 to X4. And as I've said before, I use these to desensitize us with respect to the fear of mathematics. I want us not to be afraid of mathematics when we see these symbols. So what are the recipe? What are the ingredients in this recipe? Well, according to the documents, they are X1, domestication. Domestication is that the AU expects, although it can't enforce, the separate neocolonial states to embed continental norms into national law. So that's the first item, the first ingredient in the recipe for a federal or a confederate Africa. The second item on the recipe is X2, which is empowerment. And that's the argument that there has to be grassroots mobilization, youth and women inclusion for Africa to be united. Then X3 is inclusion. And that is that there has to be direct participation by Africans in decision-making processes. So for instance, as you know, the ECOSOC that we are applying for is part of that. Then there is X4. The fourth ingredient in the recipe is perception. So the document sets out some of its goals in terms of perception. So, for example, those are targets. For example, one of the targets is that 7 out of 10 persons perceive democratic processes as accountable. So that's a target. So these X1 to X4 are the levers if you have an engineering background, or see them as items on a recipe if you are someone like myself also who loves to cook. Now, the baseline plus the levers is then meant to lead to a united Africa as far as the AU is concerned. So the outcome is a united Africa, whether federal or confederate, we will decide that later. We will decide that. Functioning with universal adult suffrage, free movement, and human rights. So that is the idea as far as the African Union itself is concerned. So this is how the African Union sees Africa's unification. Now, let's then go to the implementation mode. So according to the document then, what is happening is that, and I call this the scholastic atmosphere, is that the AU is very good at making declarations. The AU Assembly, which I think currently is the highest decision-making body, because that's where the presidents meet and talk and agree on things. That body makes declarations. These declarations go into consultations. The African Union, the African Union Commission, does consultations. These consultations then also feed into monitoring and evaluation frameworks, and then they are meant to also feed into national focal group reports, which are fed into the ECOSOC reviews, which then go back to the assembly for them to consider and make further declarations. So this is how this is working. It's like a student sitting in the classroom and just using a mathematical formula to work out the volume of something, the area of a square, whatever it is. That's what they are doing. They are not really solving any problem. They are just using the formula to do calculations. Or a cook who is just has a way of rearranging the recipe, but it's not actually cooking anything. It's just looking at the recipe. Yeah. So the system generates data about progress without generating progress itself. That's the point I'm making. So that is the reality, and why this is happening is because of the neocolonial state barrier. So if you look at what I call the level 1 reality, which is what is happening on the actual ground, the practical life, the concrete conditions of our people, whether it is in Cairo or in Cape, whether it is in Senegal or in DRC, wherever it is on the continent, the practical lives of our people is bound within the neocolonial state. And the neocolonial state is the barrier to actually cooking the food, or for the student to leave the classroom and go and solve real problems in the world. Because our mathematics, as we teach it today, is not really about solving real world problems in the classroom. The students just sit in the class and they do all kinds of calculations They don't really go out there and solve any problem. And that is sorry, give me a moment. Sorry, give me a moment, please. I don't know why. Yeah, sorry. And so when you look at on the ground, you find that any reporting that is being done from the neocolonial state never penetrates the barrier to impact the organic nations. You see. So in other words, democratic participation at the continental level, the AU level, is not impacting the organic nations on the ground. It's not really changing their lives in the way that we would like. So who are those who are responsible within the AU structure for democratization on the continent so that we can participate? Well, they are I have defined the organizations at the bottom, if you can see. Sorry. So they are sorry, give me a moment. I don't know, you can see them.
Yes, Brother Kwame, we can see them.
Yes. So they are the ACDEG, which is the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and Governance. Then there is ECOSOC, which is Economic, Social, Economic, Economic, Social, and Cultural Council. Then there is PAP. So I've had to make it small so I can read what is below. I don't know. I'll say you can see them. I can't see them. So that's PAP here. The first PAP here, PAP, is the Pan-African Parliament. The ACDEG, as I said, is the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and Governance. ECOSOC, as I said earlier, is the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council. APRM is the African Peer Review Mechanism. And then AUC Technical Unit is the African Peer Review Mechanism. The AGA is the African Governance Architecture, and then the RECs are the Regional Economic Communities. So the Pan-African Parliament is meant, the documents that it uses is the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and Governance. The document that ECOSOC uses is a Citizens Engagement Strategy and National Focal Groups. The document that the African Peer Review Mechanism uses is what we call the Resource Framework. And the African Commission Technical Unit's document that it also uses is the Agenda 2063 framework. So these are the institutions that are meant to oversee democracy on the continental level. I say continental level because, as you know, there is no African state at the moment. There is no African nation. It's what we want, but it's not yet there. So what is their mandate? Well, their mandate is to report. You know, they meet and they report. They have no jurisdiction to enforce. Pan-African Parliament cannot enforce anything. ECOSOC cannot enforce anything. APRM can't enforce anything. AUC can't enforce anything. All they can do using their documents is to enforce. And that brings me back to the core argument which I have been making since I started these presentations. And that is that it is like a child, if you like, who is learning to cook in a school in the class called food technology. And the teacher has given the child a nice recipe for a beautiful food that the child likes, but the child is not allowed to cook the food. The child doesn't learn how to cook the food in the schools, tech class or tech lab. All they can do is admire how nice the recipe is, but they don't actually cook. I think that if you were a parent, you remove your child from such a school, because you wouldn't see why your child should be given recipes and not learn how to cook. But that's exactly what we are doing. So we have the AU. So this is it. So they just report, but there's no jurisdiction to enforce. So I'm keeping down the time. How much time have I got? So that is where we are now. If you look at two scenarios, scenario A and scenario B, scenario A is where a citizen decides to promote a or lead a demonstration against the ruling government. That's scenario A. And the government then shuts the internet down because the citizens are using social media to organize. So then the government shuts the internet down. The second scenario, scenario B, is where a citizen has the legal residence permit to stay in a country, and yet there is immigrant expulsion threats and xenophobic violence against that citizen, even though under the AU's documentation, both of them have the human right to do what they are doing. Yeah, under the AU's documentation in scenario A, that citizen has a right to protest, and the government has no right to shut down the internet. In scenario B, the citizen, the democratic citizen, has a right to live in that country, and it is the government's job to protect that person, and the government has no right to ignore the plight of that person, let alone that person being shot and harassed on the streets and so on. Yet the government gets away with it. Now, in both scenarios, in scenario A, the African Union has a parliament and has the APM law violating what is happening. In other words, the African Union will just make a note of that incident and report it. In scenario B, the African Union Commission Technical Unit will record what is happening in this other country in terms of the expulsion threat. And in scenario A, it fits into the theoretical framework, which I mentioned earlier, the African Charter for Democracy, Elections, and Governance, and then the African Governance Architecture. Those are the documents that are overseeing that. Okay. Now, there's a democratic deficit there, but there's nothing can be done by the AU democratically. So all you will do is that there is level 3 monitoring cannot. So the failure here is that using these documents for monitoring is all it can do. It cannot order the government not to close the internet. In scenario B, it cannot order the government not to allow cannot order the government to disallow what citizens are suffering. And yet, there is a free movement of persons and integration, which is aspiration 2 of the AU's document. So you can see here that if we have a local constituent stress test of practical life on the continent, that there is failure in both cases. And in scenario B, as you can see, continental goals are subordinate to neocolonial state borders. So the AU can't do anything. So this is my conclusion. So my conclusion is that what we have is the subsidiarity of failure. That's what we have. Why a united Africa currently remains a purely symbolic aspiration is because of one, jurisdictional gap is intentional. The AU is structurally engineered to respect the sovereignty of neocolonial states and the neocolonial state barrier over the rights of the organic nations, even though these organic nations have been here long before even foreigners arrived on the continent. I mean, the true foreigners, arrived on the continent as traders initially, But the AU is structured not to respect their sovereignty and has locked it in neocolonial state barriers. Secondly is the subsidiarity of failure. Implementation is delegated down to the very member states, causing the governance deficits. So you are asking the country that is not enforcing its the rights of its citizens. You're asking them to be the same people who should solve the problem when they are the causing the problem. You are asking the government to not to shut down the internet when they are the very people who have caused the internet to be shut down. You see, so you are relying on them to do that. So that's what I'm calling the subsidiarity of failure. So because I knew that 2063 relies on the problem to deploy the solution. That's not possible. Then thirdly, the verdict is that under the current algorithmic flow, the African Union operates as a cartel of sovereign states. It's not a union of people. A united Africa remains mathematically impossible. I repeat, a united Africa remains mathematically impossible without structural engineering. So, what are the next steps? I think that we must commandeer the machinery. We must shift the focus from participating in AU consultations, which is just a reporting loop, to transforming the African Union into an instrument of our collective will. That's the first thing we must do. Second, mandate 2, we must subordinate the state. We must find a way to force the neocolonial state to transition from a barrier into a servant of grassroots continental integration. Then, mandate 3, we must demand a jurisdiction of protection, which means replace the hollow mandates of the Pan-African Parliament and ECOSOC with legally binding cross-border protective jurisdiction. The AU must possess the power to enforce the African Charter for Democracy, Elections, and Governance. By level 1 there, I mean on the ground. The Agenda 2063 cannot be written by states. It must be executed by the people. So we, the people, we, the indigenous and organic nations of Africa have, I'm suggesting, we have now to take the responsibility to operationalize a united Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. I think we should maybe give some applause to Brother Kwame for the good presentation. You call them cartels. Anybody who want to express some appreciation to Brother Kwame's presentation, feel free to do so. via the reaction buttons we're having. Now, I think these are very clear way forward. 1, 2, 3. And thank you for your analysis from the issue, the situation, the diagnosis of the system, and this where you reach, where you finally arrive at. So let's get to members. This session is about, first of all, question. Then later we'll move to comments. So I'm only taking questions to Brother Kwame's presentation. If you have a question, please let your hand be up. Once you're done with the question and the response to those questions, we'll move to general comments and other members also giving in their input in the presentation. So let's start with the questions. Let's hope every hand that is up is about questions. So I'm seeing 3 hands. If you want to ask questions, please let your hand be up so that I count you in a row once when I go through that. So we have 4 people. Okay. So let's start with Sister Ida. Hope is the question. Sister Ida, go ahead.
Brother Kwame, I think I was there for the start of the whole of your presentation. So I'd like you to just clarify 2 things. Your meaning of federal and confederate, because in my mind, I can only think of like during the war in America, Civil War in America. So I would like you to clearly state what you're saying about federal and what you're saying about confederate, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take the next question, but I'll come you'll answer them in a row. So let me take the next question. The first one is federal and confederate. Sir Window, your question, please.
Brother Pigeon, Brother Kwame, a very big thank you for the presentation. That's not a question. The question is, Brother Kwame, can you kindly do the presentation again? Thank you.
When do you want him to do the presentation, today or next week?
Today.
Okay, that one the chair will rule on that. Let's get to Brother Kandini. Brother Kandini, your question?
Yes, thank you, comrades, for the opportunity, and also big up to Ken Kwame for the on point presentation we've had today. My question is definitely, is the individual state or nations currently in Africa that often meet to make decisions for the AU and all the constructions that have become more of a paperwork than a groundwork. So, how is it? What causes the fact that individuals who stands like Brother Kwame, myself, and everyone here do not get into political office in the various nations, but we have other same Africans who get these offices and they don't exactly think like we are thinking to change the kind of system at the AU level, and why, and what can we do so that we can have people who emanate from various nations, like ourselves, and then at the continental level we can implement ideas like this. Thank you.
Thank you for your information. It's not more of that formal, but in Kenya, of course, guided by Brother Kwame and the leadership for Conscientism Study Group, we are building a party, which I'm, of course, part of the party leader, political party called Accountability and Transparency Party, whose philosophy and ideology is actually rooted in our belief as consciousness, which is basically a united Africa. So if we could have such as well moving forward in various territories, so that we occupy those territories, then we'll be able to unite. It can be a better way also inward. But as you're saying, Brother Kwame will still come and comment on that. Brother Kwame, I don't know if the questions are too much for me to give you a breakfast of what to answer those ones before I take the next 2. Let me know, Brother Kwame.
Okay, let me answer those three then, yeah?
Okay, please. So I'll come to Brother Horace and Brother Coco after you are answering, please. And anybody want to ask a question, please let your hand be up. Brother Kwame, go ahead.
Brother PG?
Elder Sam, you want to ask a question?
No, Sister Tapua posted a question.
Okay, I'll also check on that. So let Brother Kwame take the first round. Then Brother Kwame, you can also maybe read the Sister Tapua question on the chat if you have time, please.
Because I have made my screen big, because I've enlarged, I cannot read the screen. So I'm happy if you read it for me.
Okay, let me read the question by Sister Tapua, please. Let me just do that.
Should I answer the first three questions first?
Okay, you can go with that first, then I'll take Sister Tapua in the next round of questions, please.
Thank you. So Sister Ida, my understanding is that the terminologies I mentioned are actually in the AU's own documents. So a federal system is a single unified nation. So it's just one, like the American, like you mentioned, Confederacy and the Unionists of America when they fought their civil war over slavery. So a federal Africa will be one nation, the kind we want. A confederate Africa will mean they remain different nations. So each neocolonial territory remains a sovereign state, like we have now. They remain a sovereign state, but then they'll come together in a confederacy, which means that they still have some kind of government that will be responsible for maybe foreign policy, things like that. But the sovereign states still remain, whereas in a federal Africa, we will abolish the neocolonial states as sovereign states. And we'll have only just one sovereign state called the Nation of Africa, or the African nation. Does that answer your question? I hope it does answer your question.
Thank you. Yes, it makes it clearer. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Then in terms of the Brother Kandini's question, it's a relevant question, because what Brother Kandini is saying is that why are we who believe in Pan-Africanism not taking part in both national and continental politics to change the system from within? So that's an important question, and that raises an important philosophical question in a way, which says that, do you really believe that you can change it from within? Can you change a system from within if you are part of it? And if you can, to what extent can you change a system from within if you are within it? That's the question I leave to ask, because that is a philosophical and a practical question. So there are those who take the position that they don't want to be part of any neocolonial government because they don't believe in it. And then there are those who believe that they must become the government. They must form a government to fight for the kind of things that we are discussing here. There is no one correct answer. I think it would depend on the individual or individuals. Now, as far as the AU is concerned, you would of course continue to note that we are currently led by our gallant sister Portia, submitted an application to be part of the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council. So we are in the process of doing that. Now, whether we'll be successful or not, I don't know. But Sister Portia is certainly leading us to success. Now, assuming we are successful, then we will know how to get there. But then that raises a question: what about the other positions? How is it that how are people employed within the AU? What are the modalities? And maybe, Kandini, this is something that we have to study and understand how it's done, so that we can also play the game. Because clearly, there must be modalities for how to take a position in the AU. It's just that we haven't bothered to find out. I would go further and say that if it wasn't for one of our sisters who doesn't like me to mention her name, these meetings we're having on Saturday, we wouldn't even be having these meetings. Why? Because we took unity for granted. You see, it was in the air, and we thought that was enough. Speaking for myself, I didn't before we started unification meetings. I didn't consciously think, let's have sessions on unification. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we are the only group that is holding or hosting active meetings every Saturday on unification. I would not be surprised, because I have Pan-African friends who say they are Pan-Africanists, but you hardly hear them or see them engaged practically or consciously in some kind of activity to unify the continent. And yet they say they are Pan-Africanists. You know, even things may be happening in their country, and you will not hear them as a group, as a party, as a community, as a civil society group, make a statement on the issue that is happening. So your question is relevant in the sense that how can we get ourselves into these bodies? But then again, that raises a question whether you think you can change things from the inside. So if it is okay with us, we can take up your point, Kandini, and then investigate that more thoroughly. And in the same way as Sister Portia has communicated to all of us ECOSOC, which I knew nothing about before Sister Portia came anyway. Maybe in the same way, we can then also then publicize how to get into the AU and encourage Pan-Africanists to do that. So that's my answer to Brother Kandini's point, which is Brother Kandini must himself attend meetings more often, because we don't see him in these meetings. And yet when he comes, he makes such wonderful suggestions. The third question, I believe, was on the Chair, remind, what was the third question? I thought I wrote it down.
We need to redo the presentation. Thank you.
Oh, that will down to the chair. If the chair says I should, I would. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame, for answering those three questions. Now we'll get to the next set of questions. Sister Tapo, I'm trying to check your question. I don't know if you are able to read it out, because I'm trying to check. Okay, about the last statement on the last slide on Agenda 2063. Please clarify. So are you talking of this slide that cannot be written by state, it must be executed by people? Probably, I believe you're talking of that. So that Brother Kwame can clarify. If you can unmute yourself and speak, please go ahead. Then let me take the question by Brother Horace. Horace, welcome. I think it's your first time joining our Saturday session. As I'd said before, Horace appears to be, if not 18 years of age, probably 17, and it's very encouraging to see such fellow young people starting to be in these spaces. And we want to thank you and welcome you, Brother Horace, for taking that step. Please go ahead and ask your question, Brother Horace.
Yeah, actually, thank you for the opportunity. I'm so glad that at least I'm learning something, because in my interactions with my friends and everyone throughout the process of reawakening the continental and Pan-African nationalism, I've always had the problem of rethinking on how are we going to govern ourselves. And the topic of today has been very interesting, considering the part of democracy. Now, my question is, are we still going to continue to celebrate the ability of holding peaceful elections and power transfers rather than the construction of solid institutions and democratic participation in accountability as democracy, or we have another definition of democracy? Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't quite get that question. Can the questioner repeat the question again, please?
My question is, are we still going to continue celebrating the ability of holding peaceful elections, peaceful power transfers, rather than construction of solid institutions and accountable democratic participation as democracy, or we are going to rethink the issue of democracy and governance into something else?
Okay, thank you.
Brother Coco, your last question. Brother Coco is last. Brother Coco, please go ahead.
Thank you, Brother Kwame, and you, Chair Comrade Tikpin. Unfortunately, I arrived late. I apologize for that. But I'm following up on the question that Sister Tapua had asked on federation versus confederation. And since we are talking about continental governance, which is supposed to be a sphere of influence of the African Union, I wonder if Brother Kwame has addressed the elephant in the room, which is our heads of state, because they are the ones who hold the power. And from the outside, it always looks like the African Union is the one dragging its feet, whereas we know where the true power lies. And in a federation, it would have been a unity government that does that. But in a confederation, we have these different member states calling the shots. So we cannot talk about participation at the continental level if we don't even have participation in our individual member states. So I would like to understand how well Brother Kwame has articulated on that paradigm. We can call it a paradox, because to everyone else, the African Union is being sold a pup, in short. It looks like the African Union is the one most inefficient, cannot raise the funds, cannot do anything, but in actual effect is as the presenter articulated the problem which comes from our member states. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Brother Coco. And I'll just add to your question another question as Brother Kwame coming in. And is the response he gave to Brother Kandini. We know that Kwame Nkrumah was a president of a neocolonial state. Same was all the founding fathers of so-called AU. And if we think we might not unite, we might unite continent outside the system, then if the presidents who are then presidents of various states who are reactionary, who are actually proactive and radical, are the people even set up that what is existing, which was later on compromise, then I would like also to Brother Kwame to tell me that if we are not going to be those leaders Brother Cook is referring, who then take the decision on AU, how are we as citizens going to unite Africa outside that scope of politics? And maybe have a legitimate unity government for Africa. Thank you. Brother Kwame, please proceed.
Yeah, okay. The answer to, let me start Brother Coco's question first. The answer is yes, Brother Coco. I addressed that as part of the failures. So I don't know if you saw this slide, Brother Coco, which is a subsidiarity failure, especially, which is that implementation of the democratization of Africa, which proceeds from the assembly, if you like, that is delegated to the very member state that is causing the governance deficit. So if you take any problem on the continent that is happening, the AU does not have jurisdictional power to order the president or the institution in that country that is responsible to do the right thing, or else face consequences. So that is my point 2 about the subsidiarity of failure. So you have implementation delegated down to the very member states, causing the governance deficits. You see, so Agenda 2063 relies on the problem to deploy the solution. How can the problem deploy the solution? How can the snake that is killing your chickens at night, the python, swallowing them, be the same python that will stop swallowing them? How does that work out? How can the thief who is stealing from your house be your security person at the gate? I don't know. Maybe someone can help me there. I don't get that logic. But neocolonial logic is not, neocolonialism is not known for logic, for logical thinking. So it doesn't surprise me. But I'm trying to get that logic. So, Brother Coco, yes, I did address that. But if you feel I should go further, please feel free to come in during the comment section to add to it. Now, confederacy and federation, let's be clear how we see it. When I say we here, I'm obviously deferring to Brother Welcome, as he's the man leading us. We are not saying that you can unite the indigenous and organic nations of Africa. That is, if you like, impossible. You can't unite organically the Luo nation and the Ewe nation, because they are nations in their own right. So we can't have a situation where we fuse the Luo and the Ewe nation into one entity. That is almost impossible. They speak different languages. They have different mores. They have different constitutions. They have different epistemologies, how they understand knowledge. There are even words that are in one language that's not in the other language. So they have different ontologies. So that is practically impossible. So we are not saying, so even when we talk about unification, we, CSG, we don't mean that we must fuse the nations into one nation. That's not what we mean. What we mean is that the neocolonial states, you see, the state that was put in place by the colonialists, and that was inherited by our educated Africans, who, remember, were not the sovereign. We never invested sovereign authority in any educated anybody. That was never our decision. We never did that. Our governance system was that we were overseen by chiefs and queens and monarchs and so on. That's the system we had. And when the foreigners arrived, the true foreigners arrived on the continent as traders to start with, that is what we had. So we are saying that the states that are there today, which were carved out in Berlin, in Germany, which we have inherited, that those states, we are saying, the state that must be dismantled and unified. So we have one state that is taking orders from the organic and indigenous nations. So that is what we are saying. And so that then leads into Brother Horace's question. And I think what we are saying is that, or what I am saying here is that the African Union as it is and its documentation, are a good place to start in terms of democratic participation. They're a good place to start. The problem is that there is a subsidiarity of failure. You see, first of all, there's a jurisdictional gap, which is intentional. You see, and then there is the subsidiarity of failure. And then there is the verdict, which I have mentioned. So even if we want to be Democrats and be democratic within the institution, it's very hard. The Pan-African Parliament was meant to be on stream in 2025. That's when it's meant to have legislative power to make laws that are binding on everyone. But as we all know, the Pan-African Parliament has no such powers as we are discussing now. You see, it has no such powers. And so we cannot be as democratic, we cannot have democratic participation as we would like. So then the question is, if I'm following your question, Brother Horace, so what should we do? So I think we should engage as Africans. And here, when I say engagement, I'm referring to our nations. You see, the nations must engage. I think some of the nations have given up. They don't realize how much power they have. They don't really realize that actually they have a lot of power and that they can bring the colonial state to its knees. I don't think they know that. And even if they know that, I don't think they are using it. You see, because if our chiefs tell us not to go anywhere, we will listen to our chiefs. The Accra riots that started the decolonization of the Gold Coast that became Ghana. Who started it? It was started by a chief, a grand chief called Ni Boni Boni, I think the second. It was a chief that organized that riot. And that chief was part of the House of Chiefs that the British had set up. So we have a member of the organic nation, in the territory of Ghana today, who started who called for riots, and the riots were very effective. You see, so our traditional leaders don't realize how much power they have, and so I think they are all asleep, or some of them have been co-opted into the neocolonial state, or some of them have even become practitioners in the neocolonial state themselves. So for all kinds of reasons, they are not doing what they should be doing.
Okay,
So,
Brother Kwame?
yeah, so if they did what they should do, then they would yeah. So sorry about that, if I've gone on too long. But if they did what they should do, Brother Horace, then we will have a situation where, like you are saying, we'll begin to reorganize democracy on the continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. You'll come back still. On this part, I want to take comments. It can be also questions, part of that comment. But I want you to...
Sorry, my brother. My hand is up on clarifying something on the presentation. You'd said something, you'd said you'd come back to me to clarify, but never got the chance.
No, can you put forth your question, Sister Tapua? It wasn't clear in the chat.
Right. I repeated the question in the chat. The penultimate slide, the one with yellow sparklies, talks about something to do with the 2063 agenda. There's a statement that's following that I need clarification on, because I'm not sure what's coming across based on that. The penultimate one.
That is the last slide, Brother Kwame, last slide.
What is the word penultimate? I'm not an Englishman, so.
The one before this one.
This one.
The one before this one. There's a yes. This one. There's yes.
The last slide. The next steps.
Yes.
Okay.
It says Agenda 2063 cannot be written by states. It must be executed by the people. That's what I need clarified, please.
Yeah, sorry if it didn't come across correctly. I think what I meant to say is that brought to life, written, brought to life. Does that make sense? It must be brought to life. It can't be brought to life by the states, which is what I said. That the states, if we are relying on the states to operationalize unity. I think we're waiting for a long time. And also, Sister Tapua, the states themselves are not ratifying the laws in their territories. So we have all these nice mandates, like the African the constitutional architecture and so on, but the states are not writing them into their laws.
Okay.
They are not implementing them. You know, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, a whole president is just, people are dying, doesn't care. People are being harassed on the street, he doesn't care. In a state that works, this guy will just be summoned to the necessary institutions and reprimanded or corrected or whatever. We can't just have presidents just running around doing what they like and just ignoring our people and, you know, in some abducting them. I mean, they abduct our people, they lock them up. Some of them are disappeared at night. There's an election, they just shut down the internet. I mean, we can't just have this nonsense going on. And there doesn't seem to be any authority to hold these states to account. But we have the APRM, you know, the African Peer Review Mechanism, but it's not working as it should. Thank you.
So,
can I suggest something, please?
I hope I've clarified. Yes.
Mr. Tapua,
yes.
Your contribution will be considered as now comments. And please, you have a minute to do that.
All right. My suggestion then, if I got you correct, is to possibly change this. I'm suggesting that the statement be changed to Agenda 2063 must be executed by the people. And then we add something else. Must be executed by the people because the states cannot do it. Something to do with them, so that we say the statement in our favor and then we show the weakness of the states as a concluding statement.
That is if we are issuing a press release. I have suggested to us that we should do that. Nobody has come forward to take on that role yet. And we can't leave everything to myself and Pigeon and Brother Welcome alone to do. We need more volunteers, you know, to come forward. And for instance, when we do these Saturday sessions, they will say, okay, I am going to write the press release following this discussion. And then we'll work with them, you see. But otherwise, we'll just be left to the same people, the same old people to do all the work when the word can be shared.
Okay, Brother Kwame. Thank you. For anybody interested to do that, I'll be willing to share with you the Zoom summary of some of our sessions. Even the next steps, they are always summarized in Zoom thing. So it's just a matter of compiling them into a present. It will not be different with what has been discussed, because everything discussed probably will be either in text or something like that. So anybody who is willing to do that, please come forth. I think we started a press thing was up, and we were to do other routes as well. I'll do that. I mean, I've been lagging behind a bit due to technical issues.
I think there's sorry.
Are you coming in to suggest you want to do that?
No, I was just about to say there's a software that does that tracks a meeting and it generates a summary of what's been said in the meeting already, just as soon as the meeting is finished. All you need to do is check it.
No, we will not improvise. I know it's an AI thing, which we are very cautious to add in. But of course, I thank for that suggestion. Now, I'm going to comment.
But
and
Chair,
this one,
Chair,
yes.
Can I suggest that even if we have such a software, somebody has to take responsibility to be the one that will do it. Even AI can't work without a prompt. It has to be prompted to do things before it does it. Thank you.
And this is not a question, but to add to exactly what you're saying, if we keep feeding AI with our what we need here, then already we've lost the matter of what we want to achieve to, because it's a system with a control, and everything you feed in leads back to those who set it up. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm taking very straightforward comments, and I'll give maximum of maybe 2 minutes per comment. So if you want to raise now comments, in a form of suggestion, additional thing, or even if you have also what you propose as a solution forward, please do that. And please let your hand be up so that I can call on you. I might not go through the entire 19 membership list here, but I'll start with those who haven't spoken if your hand is up. So please let your hand be up for this comment section. Maximum of 2 minutes, please. I'll go with that order. So let's start with Dr. Ferry. Dr. Ferry, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I was listening to the presentation of Dr. Prof. Kwame. I was in Zimbabwe recently, and I thought about something actually, just as a comment on that. You see, we are working against the state and we say the people, but we know very well whether it's a neocolonial state or whatever we call it, it still have got power. So when I went home, I was thinking, I've always been a Pan-Africanist. I've spoken about it. What if I changed? Nothing. Because sometimes we don't have the political power that Kwame Nkrumah had and others. And even us, like now what Brother Pigeon have said, to say that we want to create another party again. That has been done before. There have been opposition parties created, trying to oppose those that are there. So the question of changing from inside is very important. So when I went home, I was thinking, why don't I also participate in my own country in Zimbabwe's politics? I'm very good at policies. I'm specialized in development, and I understand the actual practical elements of development. Why don't we as Pan-Africanists also participate in our governments? No, not necessarily to be a member of parliament or something like that. Like what I thought was to say, I'll go to the ruling party, which is not prominent, which is the ZANU-PF. Then I'll say, okay, what is it that I can do for you? But what happens with that is that, let's say I don't want to be the face, I don't want to compete in elections, but I just want to help maybe within policy and development. Then I look at my area where I come from, because I come from Kwekwe, it's a small area which is less developed. Then I try also to work through that as a volunteer within that particular part so that I don't get absorbed. My influence as a Pan-Africanist, I can actually use it through that, using their own leverage as a party. Because by so doing, we are able now to leverage those sovereign powers of those unique states to our own advantage as Pan-Africanist. But if we work whether we are working outside or only inside only, it won't work, but we can work in both in a way in which we are not absorbed by one as against the other, where we try to compensate the two. Because the issue of single Pan-African states is a big problem. And if, like what you have said, that the African Union is like a toothless bulldog, it does not have real judicial powers to actually influence. We don't have that. But the power is in the states. So those who advocate for a united Africa should be able to bridge between the two. Okay. Then my last question, so I think I'm a little bit out of time, is that Brother Kwame and Brother Pigeon, you're always talking about people not participating. Okay, like last time I suggested that I'm open to participation, but I also need to be given what to do. Unfortunately, for the fewer days that I was not there because I was at the funeral and all this stuff, but I was open also to say, if you feel that I can do something, just give us what to do. Sometimes it's very difficult to suggest what is it because you're already doing different parts of the thing. So let's say you can say, Dr. Stephen, can you please do this for us? we'll be open to do it so that we can share the responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ferry. Of
Dr.
course.
Piri, Dr. Piri, they are already listening to you, mind you.
No, thank you, Dr. Ferry, because of course, many members came out and said what they can do in various departments you had listed. I think it's back on our side also to organize that feedback, because we did a poll. I'm not able to access it, but I think we can get the names of those who suggested where they want to be and now move to action. I think that's the only thing lacking. Now, that's on our side, which we'll do. Now, I've requested anybody want to comment additional points to have their hand up. So I'll only be giving you minutes based on the hands I'm seeing up. So if there are no more hands up, maybe the person speaking might have more minutes to speak. Let's get to Brother Kandini, who has spoken before and is coming back again. Kandini, please. 2 minutes maximum.
Yes, thank you, Chair. If we look at what is happening to us as Africans, if we have a set up system, then definitely at the national level and at the continental level, we are still operating within colonial and neocolonial systems, whether it is the AU itself or the national level. What they did was that they gave independence and put people in offices in various nations, and then they went straight to control the AU, so that now the AU does not even look at implementing or enforcing whatever decisions they make, but we celebrate and we pay people and we keep meeting at that level. And then at the national level, they are also not implementing a system that will unite the continent. So my suggestion will be that if you look at China, what they did was simple. They were also under the same system as like us, but they realized that democratically they couldn't implement anything of the West. So they took it into technology, knowing that once they control technological system, the few people sought to control the system through technology, though they had their communist ideas that they wanted to implement, but they realized that technology rules over business, technology rules over government. So they centralize the one thing that when they control, then they can have the power to implement whatever system they want. Because whether we want to code democratically or anything we put our energies in, it's not going to work. But when we have the technological power, then definitely we will be deciding the next coming years where the nation should go, because business people will flock to us, and then the same political leaders will flock to us. For instance, if we are going in election system and we are a system is going to be instituted that is more of the use of computerized system, those who have advanced technology for that are going to be in control of such elections. Now, Brother Kwame said something about something being impossible, especially when you look at the organic living of the people. These impossibilities is what most often the oppressor has sat down to diagnose that everything we seem impossible is possible. When some of them came, they ensured they intermarried with some of our people. They intermarried, and as a result, they had a hold on the people through the length of some of the children they gave birth to. Some may be belonging to us, but some belong to them, and they have used them to maximum effect. Chinese are applying this, especially in Ghana, which I am. They ensure when they go to the Kalansei site, they intermarry with a lot of the women and get children. And some of them, they take them there and ensure they go and come back. So it's a futuristic system. And what they do is that they have the fundamental, then they empower it to the future. So we can look at some kind of ideas around this, and I think possibly we can liberate our continent and our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Kandini, for that additional. We'll go to Sister Tapua. I'll just throw in something as Sister Tapua coming. For example, let's ask a simple question. We have had presidents making declaration that moving forward, our country will not require any visa or whatever to other countries. For example, let's say Ghana. Many people maybe from Caribbean can move to Ghana without any visa because the president said so and declared so. If 50 so-called 54 presidents were to meet in maybe their so-called AU, if they're progressive enough and say, moving forward, you don't require passport and visa for any African traveling in any country, in 1 month it would be effective. But because they can't think of that and they have power to do that, they see to where things can be done, but they don't do what is required. And it only takes a proclamation. The East African community today are thinking of coming as one political unit. And Museveni is talking about it. If today they meet in Nairobi and declare that moving forward from today, we are going to be one country with one presidency, as presidents and their parliaments, that's done. The next day you realize you have a commission on this. That's how even they form the REX, the ECOWAS and the rest. It's just them who formed it. So I think we still need to see the power they hold and the power those positions hold to transform what is needed in the continent, and how do we take that power to be our power so that we can own it and do what is required for the continent. Sister Tapo and then Sister Portia, please go ahead. Then I'll go to Brother Kwame if you want to come in on any of those comments so far. Sister Tapo and Sister Portia.
Right. Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you very much for the presentation and the great slides. I'm going to start off by connecting my comment to what you just said, Brother Pigbin. What I've noticed is the leaders that we have tend to, they aim to stay relevant. So if there's anything going on the ground, if they see that Pan-Africanism is the thing that's being spoken about, you then find our leaders like Ruto and Macron coming in and talking about Pan-Africanism. This is where I think my strategy, my suggested strategy would come through. Because I think whilst we are working towards joining AU and everybody else, we need to have grassroots movement on the ground, trying to get people to understand where we want to go, so that when we are in a position, we are actually driven and the leadership is driven by the people to respond. I'm going to ask if we could go to the slide on the expanded formula, please, because I want to speak on that. I think it was one of the first or second one. Yeah, not that one. Yes, this one. I'm thinking that we as a group need to identify where in the formula we can work from in terms of impacting the ordinary people on the ground. Because I've noticed that in a lot of instances, we have very good information. I've noticed also in groups that people are writing very good papers that can be understood by academic people. But I'm thinking maybe we need to have a group of us getting together to simplify some of those things so that they are understood by a person with an ordinary secondary school or less education. Because once we get that information going or just being fed onto the platforms, then we're able to make headway, helping people understand. Particularly because if we're going to start that way, we won't be on the radar of the current political systems, because they're thinking Pan-Africanism, well, they're dreaming, right? They're not forming parties, they're not doing this, that, or the other. But we should have a strategy that we're going to, drip by drip, get people to understand what would work for them and where we are going, so that when we eventually come to the platform, we're able to. I'm also thinking or asking, should we have a meeting where we discuss this, just this formula, and discuss what we can do to effect any of these? What is it that of these 4 points or 6 points, what can be done? Can we group ourselves around any of these points in order to be relevant and make meaningful progress on the ground? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Portia, and then Brother Kwame can come in. I think you've raised very important things also, Sister Tapua. Sister Portia? Then Brother Kwame can come in.
Thank you so much. Many greetings, all. Just want to come outside a bit. Okay, pardon about that. Let me turn on my camera so you can see me. It's raining. It's raining here. First, my apologies. I was sleeping during the presentation, so please pardon that. I know it was a good presentation, and I will be looking forward to looking more at the presentation slides afterwards. And then the point where I'm coming in is just to echo what Queen Sister Tapua has already shared about maybe having a session on the implementation side of the implementation strategies around what the formula has presented. It's raining here. I don't know if you can see that. When it is time to rain, though there are entities that try to control when rain will rain, but by and large, nature moves. And the reason why I bring up that point is because for me personally, when I stop looking at how I'm thinking, how to think about something, and I'm actually in a state of being in parallel with the natural worlds. And so I am moving like a rain. So when it is time to rain, it rains. When it's time for me to act in a healthy way, I act. And so I think one of the things that the Black Panther Party did very well in the United States of America is that they did not do too much thinking. And I'm talking about a thinking that can sometimes paralyze, or a lot of conversing a lot of pontificating or a lot of conversing that can sometimes paralyze. It is not saying that I am against thinking or planning or strategizing. It is just saying that I think there's a case to be made when it's time to move healthy, And so I had said in my presentation last month, the one that was around a lot about spirituality, spiritual revolutions and cultural revolutions, I was saying that the clubs are asking of us. The juke joints are welcoming us. And so, referring to the Black Panther Party strategy, and noted that it was not there were challenges. When we go outside ourselves, this conscientious study group, and I do agree that not one or more persons should be doing all the work, and I don't think that's how it is designed. But when we move outside of a lot of academic, and again, I know there are universities in Africa, when we move outside of a lot of type of academic ways of analyzing and then trying to address the problem, I think we can revert to a very deep spiritual or cultural ways of moving. And so that welcomes us to go to the juke joints, welcomes us to go to places that we would not otherwise go to. And it also welcomes us when we are there, not looking at what we can tell the people about what we know, but rather in those spaces when we get together, we all are moving into what this formula has presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Please come in briefly, and I'll take now maybe 2 or 3 more hands. So after Brother Kwame, if you want to still comment or share something, please your hand be up. Brother Kwame, proceed.
Thank you. You can hear me okay? Yes? So on participation that Dr. Piri raised, yes, I think Brother Pigeon has the lists. Due to technology challenges, he hasn't been able to work on it, but we are securing a new laptop for CSG's work, so that should solve that problem. So then he would look at the list, those who have volunteered for what area, and then we will let you know what you can and can't do. Yeah. So that is. I hope that answers Dr. Piri's question, because I know he's very dedicated and wants to do more. So that's the first point. The second point on the comment is Brother Kandini's contribution. I listened very carefully to Brother Kandini's history of what happened, and that is not my understanding of how the history evolved. But be that as it may, so for instance, the fact that China is the manufacturing capital of the world was not necessarily because China decided to be that. It's also because the president of America, I think it was Nixon, they decided to outsource manufacturing to China because of their vast workforce. And then America remains the financial capital of the world. That was a decision made by the American government. So I'm suggesting that it's not enough for Africa to just say we want to lead technologically. If, for instance, as we know, China today is the technological capital of the world in terms of manufacturing, then we have to speak to the Chinese to outsource some things to us. How do we get the technology if we don't speak to them? And the other thing also is that it's not enough for us to say that's what we want to do. We must have a president who can negotiate on behalf of a continental African nation. If you leave it to these presidents, some of them are what, 80, 89, some of them are 83, some of them can't even walk, some of them do not. I mean, if we leave it to these guys, I don't think we'll get much from them. And even if they did, they will all come up with they will go and negotiate different things, which in the end will all just cancel out. Then we will get to nowhere. Honestly, brothers and sisters, I have no faith in this neocolonial system. It's just wasting our time. How can one president be in office for 38 years and he still wants to be in office and he's not really achieving anything for the nation? And the guy just wants to sit in office for what? Yeah, for what? So I'm just saying that we have to have a president who will lead. But even if we have a president who will lead, we must not be too sure that he will not be taken and will not be killed. You remember how Gaddafi was killed? Because he wanted Africa to be united. And then he wanted Africa to have one currency called anyway. And he wanted to back the currency with Libya's gold. You remember what happened to Gaddafi? It was some of our own presidents who betrayed Gaddafi. I don't want to mention names, but I think you know the history. So even when we have a president who will do the right thing, we shouldn't be so sure that she or she should not be protected by us. Look how many times they tried to kill Nkrumah. You know, how many bombs. They even bombed his house when his mother was there. Then they threw a grenade at him when he was in the north of Ghana, etc. So, so I'm saying that even if we decide technology is the way to go, Brother Kandini, I'm suggesting that there's more to be done. Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. And finally, my final comment is on the comment by Sister Tapua which I'll link with Brother Welcome's point. So, Chair, I think what our brother and sister are suggesting is that we revisit these slides. Even if I don't represent today, I think the suggestion from both Brother Welcome and Sister Pua is that we should revisit these slides at some point and do more work on it. I think that is what I am understanding from what they are saying. And I want to link that, what Sister Pua said, with content creation. You see, right now we have technology that our ancestors didn't have. Yeah. I mean, even during the fight for independence, the technology that was available 30 years later, not even today, but just 20, 30 years after the fight for independence, when a country like South Africa was beginning to get in the end of apartheid in 1994, those technologies weren't there in the 60s. So now we have technology where we can create content. And the whole point about the I Show Speech presentation is for us to look at how the young man was creating content. Because if we get it right, following what Sister Powa is saying, and we can create the content, that are relevant, that are specific, that are measurable, that are time sensitive, etc. If we can create these contents, we can mobilize the young people around unification. This is why Sister Grace was present. Now he's left us. So please, anybody close Sister Grace, please go and convince her to come back, because she is one of our members who is really, really into using content creation to sell a message, so that she can come and work with us on this. So if we can create content on unification, on the very topics that we are discussing, and then we just use all the social media platforms. Sure, we are not using the social media platforms. So we are not really, we are not using TikTok as we should. We are not using the YouTube as we should. We are not using Instagram as we should. We are not even using the social media that are patronized by young people. Because young people are not everywhere, they have specific social media that they go to. Do we know what those are? And are we using them? So, Chair, so I think that is those are my comments.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Thank you, Brother Kwame. I still call myself young, so it's still task on us, but I think we've got another younger one, 18 year, who might bring other Gen Zs on board, or Generation Alpha, so that we can combine our ideas and see how this works out for the rest of us. Brother Coco, please come in. I think that will be the last comment I'm taking, if there's any, because we are having 11 minutes to go. If there's any other comment, please, if you haven't spoken, please let me know. But Brother Coco, please go ahead.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you, Brother Kwame. I think you answered my question in the question that I had posed to you earlier. I would like to add to what you had said, to say the wolves cannot legislate over the lives of sheep. You cannot expect the wolves to legislate over the lives of sheep, and you think that that system is working. The African leaders, or should I call them misleaders, who refuted or opposed Dr. Nkrumah's unity now approach, wanted this, right, where we are, a system where they have a say on whatever it is that we do. Because if we had a supranational body on a continental level, that's what I mean, telling them what to do, then they would have lost power. But that for them was a no-no. Hence why they have stood in the way of unity. In this way, they have dragged their feet and made it as if it's the African Union which is incompetent, whereas they are the ones who are dragging their feet. Then I have to talk about what is called the principal agent problem. So that is the agency problem which we see in many governance, I would say literature or governance. It's a question of who is in charge really. If I am a banker and you are a depositor, is someone who deposit their money with me, who is really in charge? Who is really in charge there? It should be you as a depositor who is in charge. You are asking me to manage your money in accordance with how you want that money to go while it's under my care, my management. But the situation is that the agent has taken over now. The banks are doing whatever they want with the depositors' money. And the depositors are not getting what they're supposed to get, what they are due. Now it's the bankers who are getting whatever they need with the money that the depositors were supposed to be getting something meaningful out of them. It's the same system in which we, as the African people, are electing the wolves to represent us. We are not getting any return, any value on those people, because if we are, as African peoples, want unity now, why is it not happening? Why is it not happening? It's not happening because if it were to happen, those people who are in charge of the fiefdoms, which were created at Berlin in 84, 85, then will lose their jobs. Hence why they have to be in the way. But we need to topple this system. But how do we do that? We need to know how the system is operating. We need to know the ideology and the philosophy with which we are studying on Thursday. We have to take some of those and bring them to work here. We need to remember that the ideology prevalent in any society is that of a dominant class. And this is the problem we have in Africa, is that the ideology that is prevalent in Africa is that of the elites. And those elites, they feel like everything has to do with ability. And it has to do with capitalism. So it's a whole lot of a mess. We think we got so-called self-rule. I don't call it independence because it's not independent. We are never dependent on anyone in the first place. But the problem is they took over and implemented what their masters were using before, which is capitalism. And if capitalism is to protect their interests, is to protect their wealth. I think Brother Kwame said, what happened to our indigenous rulers? They have been subsumed into that system. They have been educated within that system. The Western system has been touted as the best since sliced bread. And we need to move away from there. This is the reason why we meet, why we are active on social media, why we exist as Pan-Africans. Because we know something is not working for us. And we need to make it work. Allow me to stop here, but thank you for some of these discussions because we need to continue asking these questions. Yes, brother.
Thank you very much, Brother Coco. And with Brother Kwame, I think there's a new thing coming in. Probably, maybe we need to have the same formula and analysis and a presentation of the study of the system and a recommendation on how to deconstruct the same system. So if somebody maybe may take up that to do something like a serious analysis of the entire system as it exists now, where the mess are, why it's not serving us, and how do we bring it down to have something that works for us. And my final comment before I get to Brother Kwame, actually, Brother Kwame, I'm still also of the same idea that this presentation need to be there a bit because it was less of democracy and much of the system analysis and the mess in the United Nations of Africa, rather than even the democracy aspect that you were looking at. So I think it was a good presentation that then looks beyond what you were looking at, the democratic thing a bit. So please, if you will have another term maybe, because I think we still have some issues. Every month we talk about the Africa Union government or United government. So probably you can advance this slide a bit also to maybe check out the entire system, probably analyze the entire AU system as it is. the failure and the mess and what you can work on, Brother Kwame. So that's just what I'm thinking. But let me give you an opportunity, first of all, to thank you for this wonderful presentation. I said I'll come for classes on how my generation now will borrow the ideas and take from your generation on how to do this wonderful presentation, Brother Kwame. Please go ahead to give us your final remarks.
Yeah. So my final remark is that I really want to thank all of you who are here. We had about 20 people attending. That's really wonderful. To thank you all for your love for Africa and your dedication to what you think should be. So I would like to thank you very much for coming. And those of you who come every Saturday, the ancestors thank you. Those who are alive today also thank you. And the unborn will also thank you, because these videos are available online. And so we are actually educating an entire generation. We may not know the impact of what we are doing, but I think we are achieving a lot. So Chair, I want to say thank you to everyone and to yourself. Then the other thing I want to say is that, yes, I agree with you all, especially Brother Welcome and Sister Takua, and Chair yourself, of course, who have suggested that I go over these slides again and maybe even take the slide on the formula and see how we can contribute to it. Because remember, we are, as a class, we are on chapter 4 of Conscientism. And you all remember the first sentence of chapter 4. And I read, it says, practice without thought is blind. Thought without practice is empty. So yes, if any of you can follow Brother Pigeon and Dr. Piri's example and get yourself entangled in the system, as they've suggested, that would be great. Brother Kandini himself also should not just come and talk here, but let us know how he is being part of any system. So that we both work outside and inside, so that we are using a dual strategy. Some of us are inside, some of us are outside. And then we use that as a dialectical weapon. I think Brother Kandini's point, if we accept it, I think would be great, which I'm interpreting as intermarriage. Luo should start marrying Ewe women. Ewe men should start marrying Luo women. Igbo men should start marrying Nguni women. Nguni women should start marrying Yoruba men. In other words, let's have intermarriage across the continent. But even if we do that, just remember, even if we do that, the nations themselves will always remain. Intermarriage will not dissolve a nation in terms of its language, its morals. We've been here since the first humans arrived on this planet. Brother Jonah will say from Nibiru. We've been here. So even if we intermarry, the Luo nation will still remain the Luo nation, the Ewe nation will remain the Ewe nation, the Ga nation will remain the Ga nation, the Nguni nation will remain the Nguni nations. They will not disappear. But when we intermarry, we link up ourselves at the edges, which I think is good. And Brother Kandini is encouraging us to do that. So, Chair, those are my final comments. And I'd like to share the plan so you can make the announcements. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Kwame. I will request anybody who has the ability to share the link for our WhatsApp group to please feel free to share it here. And just to notify members that we have been having a very strictly coordinated WhatsApp group because, as Brother Kwame has said, we are a primary philosophical and ideological study grouping. And our philosophy and studies takes place every Thursday. And in fact, as Brother Kwame said, and I'll do that naming, it's Sister Ida who thought that we need to do a conversation on unification. And then we said, okay, let's
So
analyze
much
if that's the reality.
information, brother.
Now, we say, let's ask if that's the reality. So we did analysis a bit and realized, yes, there need to be more sessions on unification. So our Saturday session then is an extension of us now focusing on the unification of Africa. We then we have brought into the element of economics, development, and liberation. Any of these topics we talk about here, whether it is economics, development, or liberations, we approach them from a unified continental approach. So any conversation we always have, whether it's in economics, we are taking it from the unified continental approach. So please, if you get that link or if you haven't got the link, get in touch with me to add in that WhatsApp group, which the rule is very strict. You stay in the group as long as you attend the meetings. If you don't attend our meetings, you don't stay in that group. So for the last 4 years, we only have 50 people. That tells you how strict we are, and you always remove people who don't attend our meetings because we are a philosophical study groupings. We are not a chat WhatsApp group. Then, having said that, thank you for those who showed up on Thursday. I thought it wasn't there because I was having technical issues, but thank you very much. I'll share the recordings of Thursday and the recording of this Saturday as soon as possible. Probably by either tomorrow or Monday, they'll be available on our YouTube. So as it's been also noted, I always share raw recording as they are. So we don't filter and edit what people comment. It's just a conversation we share on our YouTube as a primary source of information. So once it is there, people have ideas, we can use that, maybe that information, and see how we now can form some short pieces of videos, clips we can share everywhere. But we have a repository of over 401 recordings, previous recordings on our YouTube channel since 2023. So you can go back anytime and listen to conversation we've been having. And it's our library for our education to the future generation. Now, next Saturday, we are looking at economics in regards to cooperatives, public ownership, and commons. I am going to do that presentation. I'll be presenting on the Harambe philosophy and also examples of successful cooperatives and how to come up with cooperative, especially in Kenya, into a continental scale now, how we can come up with that. So that will be the next topic on economics. I'm not an economist, but I'll be bringing the philosophical element of Harambe philosophy, which some of us know. Then Brother Ores, the comrade, the youngest comrade around, he told me that he had accepted to do something on the youth, education, and the future leadership. So probably prepare to do that. I see Sister Tapua is, Sister Portia probably is proposing to do something on mass movements and popular power. Anybody who want to do anything still, we can always have even 2 presenters if need be. So anybody, please come in so that we can go with that. And the next month, we go to the topics that are on listed. So we have a program from January we've been following up with December in regards to Saturdays. On Thursday next week, we continue now with our reading of Conscientism. I think this week we repeated the last week's reading because it was at least it was a big paragraph. So we decided to redo that. But next week we proceed to the next paragraph, which I'll share in advance. And finally is that, yes, we are still doing some of our contribution to buy some of the technical devices, machines. I think we're almost done with getting some money for laptop and other things. So if you wish to contribute to that, these are a few equipment that keep us running and keep us moving as a class. So feel free to get in touch with me or Brother Kwame to give anything you can give in line or in regards to that. Having said that, Brother Kwame, is there anything from your side?
Yes, I've shared the link to the WhatsApp group, but not the main CSG. I've shared the debating forum because that's where I think this discussion, those who attend this meeting should go to. And then the main WhatsApp is for the Thursdays. So I've shared that in the link. Then the other thing I wanted to say is that as a default, on my part, I always prepare just in case for every Saturday, just in case. So whilst we encourage everyone to come, like you've said, to to volunteer for a topic. I will also do a backup presentation just in case. That's all for me, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's the end of our session today. Thank you very much for those who have attended. I think there are new names that are coming for the first time. I don't know who is Galaxy 06, but feel most welcome. Sister Amina was here. She actually also helped a lot in the contribution for our Zoom donation. We've never seen you since then, Sister Amina. Thank you very much for your support behind the scenes. And also, I've seen Sister Shaza, who hasn't been here for long. Sister Shaza, please also feel most welcome. Brother D Black, also, you've disappeared and welcome back again after a long period of time. And all the comrades who will always be here every day, please feel most welcome and feel appreciated. Thank you for spending your time, your resources, and even your data to join us today. Let's meet again on Monday for Pan-African Reading Club, Thursday for our philosophy, or Saturday for our conversation on unification. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Night, everybody. Bye.